Hello, my name is Brandon Lee, and this is my first video for Sociology of Disaster. Jumping right into the first question, what terms were most important concepts of this week's lessons? Define the important terms in your own words. The chapter discusses four fundamental theories of disaster: acts of fate and acts of God, which can be lumped into one kind of overarching theory of uncontrolled forces that are out of human control or in Mother Nature's control. So the act of God was used in the example in the chapter when the coal company built a dam that failed, and they blamed God for bringing too much water, when in actuality they didn't build the dam rated with high enough materials to withstand the pressure from the water. And the next theory was nature and society, which I found the most interesting. So it said that earthquakes don't kill people, and it's the buildings that actually kill people. So disasters are a result of human failure, and when nature and human both fail, that is when things are labeled as a disaster. So kind of like the old saying of when a tree falls in the forest, does it make a noise? And it kind of goes off of that. If there's an earthquake and no buildings fall, if no dams fail, if no humans are hurt, if no cars' windows are broken, was it really a disaster? So about 2 weeks ago, we had an earthquake here in Lancaster area, and life kind of just went on. It wasn't large enough to trigger any kind of immediate response. So under this theory, we would not label that as a disaster because nothing changed. So it's this connection between humans and nature that triggers society to label an event as a natural disaster. So looking into this theory, it's man that identifies a natural disaster rather than nature or some kind of measurement. And the chapter lastly discusses vulnerability, and it says vulnerability is socially constructed, meaning that some populations are more vulnerable because of physical and economic factors. So two houses built next to each other could have different effects from the same disaster, because one person could have larger amounts of capital, money, to reinforce their house. So it's saying that some populations are adversely affected worse than others. And the chapter also discusses two definitions of the term emergency. Emergencies that are common and can be managed by trained personnel. So these are the emergencies that we're prepared for. So fire safety in elementary school. It's a common enough thing, fire. It is, well, hopefully it's not common, but we're prepared for it. We have the exit signs, we have fire extinguishers, we have fire alarms. These are things that we are trained to look out for, and we can identify and we can prepare for them. And then emergency is also defined as an extreme immediate event. So these are the events that we're not prepared for. So the flood. Elementary schools never taught you to be prepared for floods. They prepared you for earthquakes, where you put your hands on the back of your neck and you went like this and you were going to be magically saved. That would be a common occurrence. But the flood, which we were not prepared for, would be the immediate event. So the chapter also discusses governmental policies that affect emergency management. Two of them were the Fire Disaster Relief Act and the Lower Mississippi Flood Control Act. These two were reactive rather than proactive, so these were after large natural disasters, which leads into my in-class, in-person question, which is, why do we only see governmental policies and preparedness after the fact of large disasters? So pretty much, why does the United States act reactively rather than proactively? So why do we only do anything after the fact that something bad happens rather than putting money, time, effort, resources into beforehand to be prepared for these things? And the chapter also discusses the structure of the governmental emergency management system. Under the Carter administration, most of the federal agencies were condensed under the umbrella of FEMA, and FEMA consists of the Preparedness Agency, Defense Civil Preparedness Agency, and Federal Disaster Assistance, and the executive order created FEMA to be the focal point of the federal efforts in emergency management. And there's other branches of FEMA, and the book discussed 12 of them, but the biggest one was the EPA. So the biggest theme throughout most of the chapter that I saw was that, and the sociological theme that I could pick out was that emergency management is something that can't be done by one agency. It needs to be done by intergovernmental communications, cooperation with links to local government, state, and federal efforts, which means that multiple different agencies are involved, communication, research, preparedness. So as sociologists, we should look to see how these things can be improved, how resources can be better allocated, how everything can be improved. And the muddiest point that I had a hard time understanding was the original 4 theories that I talked about over here. How do these kind of fit together? Are they used singularly? How are they used to explain things? Or do we use them together? How do they fit together? And that's everything. Thank you.